All right. Good morning, everybody. That's the light for the easel there. That's kind of looks like a ghost sitting in my studio. Um, and yeah, welcome back and welcome to new students that haven't been with us before. It's really nice to see a lot of faces, and it's been a long time. It feels like I think that was a long break that we took between classes, and I'm glad. I needed it to figure out how to teach this class. It's the first time I've ever taught this specific class. Painting clouds, trees, and water, I think is what we've named it. And we came up with this idea together as the class. During the last class, I asked students what are things that they would like covered. Typically, my class lineup is in the fall is design and composition. In the winter is color, because I think we could all use some color in the winter if you live in the Pacific Northwest. And in the spring is typically been brushwork and edges. So instead of doing the same thing over and over, we decided to design a new class, and in discussions of what are things we would like to learn a little more in depth about, the idea of clouds, trees, and water came up. That's kind of the big three, I suppose. You know, we throw rocks and stuff in there, but the big three when it comes to landscape painting. And you know, who doesn't want to learn how to paint skies better? They can be, I mean, you can do an entire painting that is just skies and just clouds, and it can be so beautiful. And you know, we have such great skies here, both sunrise, sunset, and you know, this season is amazing. The clouds are fantastic in the spring here in the Pacific Northwest. So I hope you guys are out taking photos when you're out walking the dog or, you know, hiking around. Get lots of reference photos. This is the time of the year to do it. Maybe not today and the last couple of days because it's been horrible weather, but when it clears up a little bit. Also try to get different times of day photos so you have these references to use. I'm a big believer in my landscape paintings of combining images. I don't just take one photo and paint from it very often. I'm generally grabbing skies from one image, water from another image, colors from another image, all sorts of things. So I suggest grabbing lots and lots of photos if you are not like a purist and don't just want to do plein air painting outside, which is also very fantastic. All right, just a quick check. We've got 10 of us here out of, I think, 15. So that's pretty good. Did anybody have problems signing in? Hi, Barbara. How are you doing? Everybody was okay? It was easy? Just do it.
Hi. Not once I got it. It's fine.
Good. Yeah. So they Zoom makes me set up one of 3 different safety protocols. And so I could give you guys a code that you would need to use, or I could have you guys in the waiting room and I would have to let you in, but that gets really difficult when I step up to the easel. And then the third one is just that you have to have a sign in to Zoom, and then you can sign into our particular meeting. So hopefully that works best and easiest for everybody. That's the easiest for me as far as making sure I don't leave anybody waiting behind. And yeah, so today I'm going to go quickly with an overview of the class, kind of how we're going to break down 7 weeks. I was telling Gail and Linda earlier that in designing this class, I'm really realizing I could have a whole 8-week course on just painting skies and a whole 8 weeks probably on trees and reflections and water, especially water, because you're dealing with so many different, you know, you're dealing with depth, you're dealing with movement, you're dealing with reflection, you're dealing with angle of the light, all these different things. So, but we're going to try to do it pretty quickly. We're going to go 2 weeks on clouds, sky, 1 week on trees, and 2 weeks on water. So admittedly, we are just going to be dipping our toe in, as it were, a little water metaphor. And that will leave us 2 weeks, which is what I always like to do at the end, for us to do a project, a kind of a more finished, longer term project where we get to use what we've learned. In the past, I just kept throwing information at students all the way through. And I realized that I'm just not leaving any time for people to digest that information and for them to ask questions, because it takes time. You don't even know what questions you have until you've attempted to use some of the theory and information. So the final 2 weeks is kind of going to be a design your own project and working on it together, working on it, helping, giving feedback and everything else. So as we are working our way through the first 5 weeks, I would suggest you begin to think about that project and maybe look through your photos. And, you know, it doesn't have to have all 3 elements, doesn't have to have clouds, trees, and water. You could pick 1 or 2 of your most important elements that you'd like to work on. But if it has all 3, all the better. And the order that I'm going to be teaching this class is sky, trees, and then water. The reason I'm picked that order is because the water is going to reflect often our trees and our sky. So I figure we should kind of lock those in a little bit, and then we can deal with the reflections and how we deal with water. Does that make sense? Does that sound like a pretty good plan? The notes that I'm handing out, did everybody get notes this morning from me? Hey, Susan's got them, Fred's got them. All right. I apologize. There are 5 pages of notes. But at the just to let you know, it was 10 pages of notes yesterday. And 10 pages of very messy notes. It's kind of funny just going through brainstorming, looking through notes that I've collected through classes and workshops and notes that I've written while reading different books, and then trying to organize those really quickly. Yes, Gail, are you asking a question?
Yes, I am asking a question. Catherine Larpenter is trying to get in and she does not have a password.
You should not need a password. She just needs to sign into her Zoom account.
Yes, she doesn't have a password for that, so she can't get in.
So it should have been whatever.
There's a spot. I had the same issue. Just tell her to just say forgot password,
Okay.
and then she can put a new one in.
Catherine, say forgot password, and then you'll be able to get in.
Yeah, so every week I will sign in at 8:45, or at least I will try my best to. And that allows for people to check their connections and everything else. So if you're insecure about, you know, getting in each week, feel free to sign in at 8:45. It's also kind of a little informal time if you have questions and things. I may still be setting up lights and cameras and gessoing panels and things at that point, but I can still talk and answer questions. And again, just double check that we're all in. So yeah, we've got 10 of us. So people are slowly rolling in. So yeah, I apologize for the long notes. I do plan to go through them with a highlighter pen today. So my editing process is multi-fold. And so when I do get them shrunk down to what I think is a clean and direct, hopefully 3 pages, I think will be my goal with the notes for each section. I will send those out again. But in the meantime, I thought it was worth getting them out to you and letting you peruse them and read through them. And feel free to add your notes of your own to them and highlight them, whatever you'd like to do. Today for my demo, I'm hoping to do 2 quick demos. One is about the structure of clouds and how to see clouds as shapes while keeping the idea of them being transparent and transient, meaning in movement. So how do you take shapes, forms, and make them feel soft and flowy and in constant shift is an interesting challenge. And then my second demo is going to be simply color. How do the colors shift in clouds? So it'll be a sunset painting, and they'll both be fairly quick. So I'm going to shift over to, does anybody have any questions right now from what I've said? All right, you guys are all too smart, or I'm really good at explaining this. I'm gonna go over to, I'm gonna share screen, and we are gonna go to the Facebook page, which again, if you guys are willing to do Facebook, please join us. I put the link in the email. If you haven't gotten it, let me know. And everybody is getting emails, obviously, if you're here. So I'm gonna go over that. All right. Everybody is seeing the Facebook page and my cursor moving around, our Facebook page. Great. So they've changed the design. It used to be that we had the big banner across the top, and maybe I can still get to that, but I don't know how to do it. So everything appears a little bit smaller, which is going to be a little bit tough on the screen. I kind of like the old layout where everything appeared larger on here. On the Facebook page is a great place for us to communicate with each other during the week in between classes. So if you have questions, you can ask them there to the group. If you have photo references that you would like to share, you can either share them right here on the main page, or if you go up, there's the discussion link at the top and a filter link at the top. Under filter is media. And in here is photos, videos, and albums. We would like to go to the albums section. And I've got tree references, water references, and photo references for sky and clouds. Feel free to add photos of your own if you're willing to share with the group. If you have some really interesting, some of these are photos I took. A lot of these are just free to use images that I found on a couple different websites online. And I just grabbed all sorts of different clouds to you guys that you can look to add more. You just go to the add photos and drag and drop them into here. You can label them and all of that. And so there's a section to add trees, water references, and cloud references. I also will have an area for artists' paintings of the different things. So there's tree paintings and paintings of sky and clouds. And I don't have water set up yet. Let's just do it real quick. So I'll go to create album, water paintings. Now let's just upload a quick photo. So show you how I'm doing it. Let's go to references and show you really quickly how you can use this. So I'll go to my references, water. Let's just pick a quick water picture. I'm just going to grab this one just blindly and then just push post if you don't want to add a description to it. So there we go. Now we have a picture in water. That's actually a photo, but anyways. So there we go. So under media at the top, under filter, go to media and then to albums, and you'll have lots and lots of references. Always in my classes, feel free to paint what you want and from the references that you want. I just supply these for people who would like to, have a shortcut, or who would like, to paint along. Also with my demos that I'll do pretty much every week, Feel free to paint along with those demos or completely just paint what you want, kind of based on the lesson that we are doing from that week. So this week, my suggestion is 2 small paintings. I'm going to do one in black and white and one in color. The black and white one I will be doing to show structure of clouds. The color one is to show color of clouds. You can do those however you'd like. You don't need to do it in black and white. I'll also be doing my black and white with acrylic paint because we have a couple acrylic painters in the class. You do not need to do that. You can do it all in water, I guess if you're a watercolorist, you could. Acrylic, gouache, oil, whatever medium that you prefer. And you can be inconsistent. You could do, you know, acrylics this week and oils next week. I don't mind. Whatever you want to work on, that's fine. Great. Let's go back to discussion. So on the great thing here is, again, you can share your paintings during the week. You don't have to share finished paintings. You can share them while they are in progress. So that way we can give feedback, give some advice of how you might move forward with it. Anything you want, ask any questions, share anything you want. I tried sharing an art show that was all about clouds that's going on in the Western Art Museum right now. But the link would not share to Facebook for some reason. So I'll maybe share that through email or something like that. Here are the 2 photos that I will be working from today. So obviously this one is for color. And this one is just for structure, kind of a, you know, maybe not the most interesting sky, but we'll talk about how do we see these clouds as structural objects while retaining a softness, an airiness, and a transientness. So if you would like to, you can use those 2 references as well, or pick any of whatever references you want. On here, I also put this notes that I sent out in the email. Very long. And then a painting, one of my paintings at the bottom of that. Here is the website for this, where I found a lot of the free stock photos. It says there's 40,000 of the best cloud photos. I didn't look through that many, but there's a lot of them. All you would do is simply just click this picture and off you go. You've just got clouds for days. You can even pick like, oh, I'd like a blue sky, or, you know, something like this, or you can pick sunset, all sorts of different stuff. So that's pretty cool. Are you guys seeing the Pixels site? If you have any other websites, or there's a number of Facebook groups too, where photographers are sharing this, like this image would be a really good one for using for today's assignment of just figuring out structure, because it's got a top, a bottom, they're very airy and fluffy. Not all images can I save to my computer as JPEGs. Some of them are making me save them as the website page, which makes it a little more difficult. I can't use those on my Photoshop. But anyways, you guys can figure that out. You can always just paint from your monitor, which I do most of the time. I usually don't paint from printouts like I used to. I paint, you notice my easel is right here behind me. So I can, and I'm looking at my monitor. So, and I've got 2 great big monitors. So I look at monitors often to paint. I prefer the backlit action of the monitor versus painting from ink on paper. I just feel like there's a little more life to it. Anyways, let's go back to this. Another quick overview of the notes. And you can also go to see the links of the photos that we shared, or that I've shared, of references and of paintings. Any questions about the Facebook group and how it works at this point?
Michael, I'm just looking for the invite and I haven't found it yet.
On the email with the link to the class, to this Zoom, it should be on there. Otherwise, let's just invite you. You are my Facebook friend, so I think I can invite you just that way, if it works. Did everybody else get the invite? Let's see if you pop up here.
I didn't, Michael.
You have not. So the
No,
very first, oh, Gail, you just got it. I just
I
sent
know.
it.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So they're
Catherine Larpenter cannot get in, by the way.
Huh, that's really interesting. I know she was nervous. She was going to have an issue with it last night when we talked.
Yeah,
All right. Well, the class is being recorded.
good. I'll tell her that.
And then, yeah, we can maybe talk after class, or even if maybe we take a little longer break.
It's the password that is her difficulty.
Yeah, and that's however she set up her Zoom account.
Right.
So yeah, with the forgot password, I mean, that's curious. Okay, well, hopefully everybody else. Jill, did you just join us now?
About a minute ago, yeah.
Okay, great. Did you have any difficulties getting into the Zoom at all?
No,
Great, and have you been able to sign up to the Facebook page?
yes.
Great, okay, perfect. Yeah, I know there's gonna be a little bit of difficulty. So again, I will be signing into class 15 minutes early if people would like to check their connections and all of that. And we won't be going through all this every week. This is just the first class. I want to make sure everybody understands what's going on and where we're at. So that's what we have on there. Please feel free again to share anything you want. The one thing we have noticed on the Facebook group is that things get a little mixed up as far as when we share things, they don't always pop up in the order we would think they do. One kind of nice thing is after you guys have shared a couple images, you could simply click on the name of the person. So let's say that Jill has shared like 5 of her paintings and some references, and you want to check in on Jill's work. You'd simply click her name on inside of the group, and it will show you all of the things that she has posted within the group. So that's kind of a nice way that it does try to organize us on there. Another thing that I will be doing a lot of in this class, especially when I'm giving feedback and insights on the paintings, is that I will be doing share screen over to Adobe Photoshop. So now can you guys see Adobe with the 2 cloud images that I've got posted up there?
Yep.
So a lot of times what I will do, I'm just going to grab a cloud painting by another artist here. Let's just grab this one this is an artist I don't know the name of right offhand. Looks like I could look if I zoom in. Whoever that is. Not a high enough resolution image. But anyways, let's just pretend that Gail had painted this and sent it into the group and wanted some feedback. And what's nice about this versus in a true class format is I can come through and do quick changes and edits to it without ruining Gail's beautiful painting. So I can just quickly, I can come through and I can put notes on it by just simply saying, you know what, Gail, this is nice, but maybe, maybe if this cloud, let's just do that a little better. Let's copy the picture of the dark cloud. Maybe, Gail, what if, that was a little more connected and had a little more movement to it as well, or, maybe a little repetition of color up here. So it's kind of nice. Or, you know what, Gail, I really like this warmth down here. What if it was bigger? And we can, so there's all these, or what if it showed up underneath the clouds again? There's all sorts of fun things that we can do on Photoshop without destroying your paintings. If it's ever, it's like taking notes. And if there's changes that you like, just let me know and I can save them and then share them with you later. But I do really like the ability. That's one of the best things about teaching over Zoom versus teaching in person is Photoshop and being able to show all of this very quickly. I mean, it's amazing what you can do just the ability to change it to black and white so we can look at values really quickly, the ability to zoom way in, the ability to crop it and show different, what if this was a giant vertical versus a horizontal, a square format or something like that. So lots of cool things we can do with Photoshop. So I will be going to that. A number of students getting a little bit nervous because they don't have Photoshop or don't know how to use Photoshop. My Photoshop is, I think, the oldest still functioning Photoshop. Like I think it's version 5 or something. I'm not sure what they're up to now, but now it's a monthly fee, and it's quite a lot, like $30 or $40 a month. I shouldn't say that because I actually don't know the amount, but it felt like it was quite a lot. So I've just been trying to hang on to this as long as possible because I paid for it and don't have to pay a monthly fee. You can use any photo editing software that you like. Our phone, if you have a smartphone, there's so many great ones on there for free that you can load in the app section. And if you just prefer to not use any photo editing software at all, that's fine too. I'm just using it so that I can show you quickly and without painting right directly onto your paintings, ways that works. A lot of times I'll also pull in other artists' work as we're looking at them, so I can demonstrate like what angles I'm looking at and different things like that. So any questions about Photoshop and how I'll be using that during the class? All right, you guys are easy. What I would like to do is go back to our Facebook group, and I'm going to show some examples of what we are going to be learning using past painters' cloud paintings. So I know a lot of people kind of like, well, let's just start painting. Let's get to it, get a little bit impatient, and I understand. But I think that if we have kind of a background to what we're going to be learning, some examples and things that you can refer to during the week when you are doing the assignments, I think that's really useful. So what we'll do is look through a small number of other painters' examples of how they've approached these problems. And that's basically what I do a lot of times is, how do other painters solve the same issues? Because all we're doing as painters is setting up problems and trying to solve them. And the cool thing about painting and setting up problems in paintings is there is no single answer. There is thousands of possible answers. And that's the art in artwork, right? That's the creative side, is it's up to us to come up with answers. But sometimes it's really useful if you have a collection of art books, or you have an art museum, or with modern technology, the internet, is that we can look and see how do other painters, maybe painters that have been doing it longer or a little more successful, or just different options. How do different painters solve these similar problems that they've set for themselves? And it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's fun to investigate. It's fun to see different opportunities that we have to solve these problems. So let me go back to share screen and our painting class. And I'm going to go again to the filter and to the media, albums. And I want the cloud paintings of sky and clouds. There's 29 examples on here. I'm not going to go through all of them. There's the one we're just looking at. I try to, that's very small. That's the problem with grabbing them offline. So that's as big as that can get. Is that too small to even look at for you guys on your screens? I'll just very quickly, I'm sorry, Barbara, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
It's all right.
Okay, quickly, this one is by Dennis Sheehan. He's an artist that we looked at quite a bit in our tonalism class last fall. I really like his paintings. They're very fun, often quite simplistic, but not in a bad way. I think that simplicity and trying to simplify things should be a goal for all of us in painting. I will give extra points for smart simplicity versus dumb, stupidly making things very complicated. Look to simplify when we can. It's an art form all unto itself. But anyways, I picked this picture by Dennis Sheehan simply because of the gradients of the sky. I will have a handout about the gradients of the sky color. That's something I talk about a lot in my color class. And an exercise that we do is in fact painting, I think we do 4 or 6 little tiny sky gradients. So anyways, let's just quickly get to the next one. Here's a little sketch of just kind of the structure of clouds. Looks like very much like popcorn. The clouds that I'll be painting are kind of popcorn shaped. And I'm not going to go through all of the different scientific names and makeups of clouds. I think that would be great to know, but I don't want to spend, out of our 2 days that we're going to spend on it, I don't want to spend much time going through and, this is a stratus, this is a cumulus, all of those different things. So if you would like that information, please look it up on your own. There's a lot of good sites because I did contemplate going through all of that information. There's a lot of great sites and reference spots for that. And it's fun to know, but I don't think it's super important to be able to name the cloud you're painting, because I am a big believer. And if you've been in any of my classes, you've heard me say this a lot of times. I don't believe in painting things so much as I believe in painting shapes, values, and colors. And the things will appear. That's funny, when I've named the class literally after things, sky, clouds, tree, water, but you'll understand what I mean by that. We paint shapes, values, and colors, and the things appear. So anyways, that's my excuse for not getting too scientific. It's going to be the same when it comes to trees. I'm not going to break down a whole bunch of like, this is how you paint an oak tree, this is a pine tree, because I do believe that once you're able to ask questions of what you're looking at and say, what shape is it? What value is it? What color is it? That the object will begin to appear. It's fun when, I'm at my art show and somebody comes up and, oh, I just love, so-and-so trees and you just nailed them. And I'm like, that's great. I don't know what type of trees those are. I just thought they were beautiful shapes. So I appreciate that. Thank you. This is a painting. It's actually, I believe, a gouache painting. Gouache is a kind of a in-between watercolor and acrylic. I really, really like gouache. It's what I will be traveling with more often than with oils, because it's such an easy setup and you can paint both transparently and opaquely. But this lady is named Lena, Lena, and then last name Rivo. I only discovered her yesterday. She does all sorts of little quick studies. I think she may be a daily painter. And she does lots of paintings from the view from her window of her house, which I think is really cool. She seems to live in a very beautiful place, probably Spain or Portugal or somewhere. So no fair, a little advantage there. She can always have a nice view out her window. But I really liked this painting for a number of reasons. And again, just talking about kind of the different names and different types of clouds, this painting already shows you that oftentimes in skies, we will have multiple types of clouds, right? This has got kind of a dark cumulus and what I believe to be kind of stratus clouds in the background, but I'm not even positive what types of clouds we're looking at. But what's neat is you've got these horizontals, you've got these angled diagonals, and then you have these kind of independent shapes floating, but they key into each other. And you can tell the light source is down low so that the clouds are being hit underneath. So the light's probably kind of behind this area, meaning this is kind of the brightest, warmest area. And then the light comes up underneath. So I will be showing that in one of the references today, or in one of the demos today. The other thing I really like about this painting is it has a lot of color. I'm not saying I like that it has a lot of color.
Into it.
But it has a lot of color, but it still has a lot of harmony. Everything fits together. and the water and the sky mimic each other, right? They feel related, like they're in the same world. A lot of times when we focus too much in on one element, like the sky, a lot of times we kind of neglect the ground a little bit. And it just feels like all of a sudden we have two separate paintings, right? I am guilty of that all the time. When I ask my wife and my daughter, my first two critics, and probably my two harshest critics, for feedback on my paintings, that is something that they'll point out to me sometimes. And that happens a lot when I'm painting the different elements independently. So as we are moving forward and as we get towards that final painting, the final 2 weeks, I'm hoping that you'll be working on the entire surface kind of together, because a lot of the clouds will be related. Even this dark is probably related to these darks. These are just, you know, a little bit lighter version of that. And a lot of these warms are reflected in the water, just a little bit more muted, a little bit more subdued. A quick note, jumping ahead to water, is when in doubt, when you're doing reflections in water, paint the reflections of the bright slightly duller and slightly darker, and paint the reflections of the darks slightly lighter, and it will read pretty well. Otherwise, observation is your best friend. But you can see that definitely happening in the water, that the darks aren't quite as dark and the brights aren't quite as bright. So they all kind of come towards a muted center. Does that make sense? They kind of both gray down a little bit. But yeah, isn't this a beautiful painting? Lots of nice movement, lots of nice color. The greatest thing about clouds is we do not need to copy exactly what we see, right? In fact, if you're painting outdoors and you turn your head for 3 to 5 minutes, it's going to be different what you see. The clouds are moving most likely. Some days they're moving very, very quickly. So what I do often is I'm literally thinking about what is the most pleasing shapes, the most pleasing form, the most pleasing design, the most pleasing gesture, which we'll talk about more here in a little bit. Gesture meaning the movement and the flow that you can get, right? So use the clouds. They are so amorphic, meaning, you know, they can be any shape. They're so transient, meaning they can be anywhere on the page, that it is such a blessing that we can use them so much for design. This is Francis Murphy, another artist I used. It's not going to zoom in, that's as far in. I grabbed this one because I wanted to use him as an example of mood and limited palette. Again, if you've been a student of mine for any amount of time, you know that I really love tonalism and I love limited palettes, but I do also love color. So I love bouncing back and forth between the two. Yeah, this is very earthy, very brown, but you can see that the clouds are still, sorry, I can't zoom in on it. Still very exciting and vibrant. And they really go in to convey a sense of mood in this painting, right? Like if you were to describe this painting to somebody that wasn't looking at it, I bet you one of the first words you would use is moody and dark, right? With this flash of light and color at the back and warmth. So the clouds are really in there. Again, looking how harmonious the clouds and the trees and the landscape are, how everything feeds in and relates to each other. Any questions on that one? I'm just kind of giving examples of some of the keywords that are in the notes. This is Hester Berry. This artist drives me crazy. I love their work. I think Hester is a female. I think that's a woman's name. And I love it. It's so strange and crazy and over the top and beyond brave to me. It's so beyond anything that I have done yet. This is maybe not this one's even crazier than normal. But look at how juicy and thick and just thick on thick on thick. So I do know that some of my students really are into the more impressionist style brushwork and really want to loosen up. You know, a lot of students come to me saying my work is too tight. it's too, too photographic. I want to loosen up. Well, for you, I introduce you to Hester Berry. Another artist who I don't have any examples of, what's his name? I'll remember it in a second. But really, really loose. It's kind of like Monet gone crazy.
Anton,
What's that?
Anton Pavlenko.
Oh, Anton. Yeah. You'll see here, I'm going to show a couple more of Hester's works. I think we're too zoomed in here. Yeah, this is a big painting. Look at the variety and brush strokes. Some of them, are very just, you can literally see the brush marks. Some of them are broken up and movement, lots of energy. You can see that they use the back of the brush, probably scraping back in to get some lines. I'm doing that more and more, especially in my grasses and stuff, and in some branches in the trees and things, using the backs of your brush. I love experimentation in painting. So I urge you, if you're comfortable with it, to use your palette knife if you want to use. I use old room key cards, like credit cards, when I paint quite a bit. I've sharpened the backs of my paintbrushes by simply putting them into a pencil sharpener. So I've got a nice sharp tip on the back of a lot of my paintbrushes. You can see here too, I'm going to zoom in and show you the signature that Hester does, Hester Berry. That is done by simply on the wet painting. Can you guys see that signature down there? Right here. Hester does that by simply, while the painting is still wet, these are done, quickly and very wet. She takes the back of her paintbrush, I imagine, or some sharpened tool, and literally just carves the name into the paint. I do that a lot with my plein air paintings. It's kind of a fun way for me to show, look, this painting was done very quickly. It was done outdoors. And I carved in my name, meaning I think I'm done with it while it was still wet. So anyways, that might be something for some of you to think about. Kind of went out of order here, it looks like. Two more quick Hester Berries. I just love this. This is the very first painting I ever saw by this person, and it just excited me. It's a very exciting painting. I guess it's doing what it's supposed to do. Again, this is not going to be for all of you. I'm going to show some very tight rendered, very well formed paintings, but I know that some of you guys really get excited by the gestural kind of fun and spontaneous work. And wouldn't this be cool to go out like on a semi-stormy day where the clouds are moving quickly, and to knock out like 3 or 4 just quick little, 6-inch by 6-inch paintings where using a biggish brush and not worrying about any detail, just knocking in the gesture, the movement, and trying to capture the feeling and the colors. Wouldn't that be a lot of fun? Just devil may care, right? We're just out here for the experience. We're out here to gather some notes, and maybe we would be lucky and successful like Hester. Again, just so fun. Yeah, I don't know if I will ever paint something like this, but I sure do get excited when I see them. Oh man, I have more. I didn't know I grabbed so many of them. Another one with more color in it. Just super fun. Looks like, I don't know if those are, I think those are probably just some logs on the beach. Maybe old pylons or something, but maybe they're figures, and maybe Hester paints figures just that loose. I don't know. But I love the vertical brush stroke versus the horizontal brush strokes with the angled brush strokes. And you can tell that they're just on top of each other. We'll talk about that for those of you who would really like to learn how to paint wet into wet and want to just keep working your painting, ways that we can go about that. Maybe I'll even do some examples of that today. Because a lot of us get kind of, well, my painting's wet. I need to stop until it's dry, especially if we're using oils. And that can be a very slow and cumbersome process. You got a lot of patience. And there are times when I definitely let my paintings dry in between sessions, but sometimes there's just some effects you can only get wet into wet that you may want to work with. So we'll talk about that. Okay, let's check in back down here. This is a painting, if it shows up, by Wilson Hurley. This guy, Wilson Hurley, was very, very, very famous for his Southwest clouds. I remember seeing a lot of Wilson Hurley's work when I was a child and just being amazed, just like, how is this possible?
Mm.
They're just, not kind of clouds we see here in the Pacific Northwest too often. They're the kind of thunderheads or just very, very, very dense. But one of the main things is I often tell my students, don't make your sky too dark, unless it's like a night nocturne or something like that. But oftentimes we want to make our clouds, the underside of our clouds, really, really dark. And they feel very heavy, like they want to fall to the ground. So you're going to hear me say that. But I want you to know that everything I say is only a guideline and something to think about and not a rule. Because if I told Wilson Hurley that, we wouldn't get this beautiful painting, would we? He's got the darkest, of areas basically is almost at the base, kind of hidden under here where no light is getting under these thick, thick, thick clouds, right? It is so dark. The landscape is ever so slightly darker that grounds it and lets this lift. But be very aware when you're looking into the darks of your clouds. You've got to compare them to the darks within the landscape. You've always got to compare shadows to shadows, darks to darks. And I almost guarantee that always the darkest darks are going to be in the ground planes, not in your sky. Okay. If it's not like that, then that's a very special occasion, a very rare occasion. And I just ask that you ask those questions so that you can answer, yes, the darkest darks are in the sky because this cloud is so moody. It is so dense and no light is getting to it. The other thing I really, really like about this photo or painting by Wilson Hurley is that it shows that he's got a single light source. When we are painting landscapes, please be aware that for 99.9% of the time, we are dealing with a single light source, right? The sun or the moon, right? It's coming from the sky generally. And the great thing is having one single light source is everything is being lit by it the same. So you can see that you can totally tell where this light is, right? It's off to the right, maybe slightly behind us because these things are a little bit face lit. Both the hills and the clouds are slightly face lit, like a 3/4 light, right? So if I was to put my right hand up and slightly behind me, behind my shoulder, you guys can do this. That's kind of where I imagine the light coming from. A lot of times when I'm painting from photos, I will do that. I will literally put my hand up in the air and kind of go, where is it? Where is that light? Is it behind me? Is that a face lit object? Is it to the right? Is it to the left? Is it behind the clouds and they are being silhouetted? Is it behind the trees? They're silhouetted. It is. And if you guys are going to write one rule for today, one thing I hope you learn, one thing that'll get you all your money's worth for the next 2 classes is, where is the light source? Simple, 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 but amazingly easy to forget and amazingly easy to mess up, especially if you're somebody like me who likes to combine references. So when I'm combining references, it's doubly, triply important that I make a sound decision and say my sun is here or my moon is here, even if it's not within the viewable picture plane, right? Like in this, it's off the screen, it's off. In fact, it's behind us. Does that make sense, you guys? Any notes, any questions, any ideas on that? You guys are so quiet. That's the only part I don't like about having
It's
all of
early.
you on mute. What's that, Barbara?
I said it's early.
It is early, yes. Maybe after our first break, when the coffee's finally kicked in, we'll have a chattier group, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I got a lot to cover, so that works. But feel free, again, to chime in. This is Michael Stack, another painter that I just, oh man, I think I discovered his work probably in middle school. He was one of those Greenwich print guys. You saw the Greenwich catalogs all the time. It was one of the early distributors of the fine art prints, the Giclées. So I would collect those catalogs whenever I saw them in galleries or stores and look at them all the time. And yeah, this guy's another Southwest painter. This is a slightly more north, central painting, because a lot of times he has the Arizona scenery in there. But his clouds are also just fantastic, filled with color, filled with energy, and filled with varying edge quality. So that's another thing we're going to be talking about a lot in the next 2 weeks. Is edge quality is so important in clouds, right? Soft edges do a couple things in our paintings across the board, even if we're painting trees, mountains, water. But soft edges basically are less attention grabbing for our eyes. Our eyes are attracted to sharp edges and contrast. Soft edges and low contrast, our eyes are just not quite as attracted to. Our eyes will follow along hard edges, and where like you got softer edges here, and then look at this gorgeous cloud back here with a little bit of rim lighting. But this soft edge, this almost makes it so we don't see it right at the beginning, but it's like a treat. Once we've kind of done the quick scan along the hard edges, along the strong contrast, our eye finally kind of gets up into here, and what a treat it is, right? It's like a reward for sticking with it and for being with the painting for a little while. So sometimes it's really nice to have those. He's definitely got a light source, right? The sun is tucked back behind this hill and is illuminating everything from back there. What's interesting is if you picture a whole bunch of different levels, that this great big cloud is between us and the sun, right? And then between us and that big cloud, we have all these other littler clouds that are not getting the same amount of light because this big cloud is blocking a lot of that light getting to us, isn't it?
What's his name again?
This is Michael Stack, S-T-A-C-K. Yeah, lots and lots of work. I don't know if he's alive, still working. I haven't seen too much new work that I'm aware of. I don't know much about Michael Stack besides I've always enjoyed when I see the paintings. He definitely has a cloud type that he likes. They're very bulbous, very shapy like this, lots of small. His reflections on his water are outrageously gorgeous too. We'll probably see some of those when we get to the water. But they're so busy. He literally paints like every little sparkle on the water. It's crazy making, but sure effective. He's definitely a detail artist, right? Just like the last artist we looked at. If this was a higher resolution, we get to see how much detail he puts into the grasses and everything else. As I've evolved as a painter, I'm not quite this detailed generally. I kind of somewhere in between more gestural work and detail work. I kind of lean maybe towards more impressionism. But anyways, what's really interesting is when we are dealing with perspective in the sky, right? As a general rule in perspective, as things go back towards the horizon line, they get smaller, right? If we use these bushes kind of as an example, this bush is bigger, this bush gets a little smaller, and we get back to this little bush here, and you can see as they're receding back towards the horizon line, they're getting smaller. The same thing will happen with clouds, right? And as you're going towards the horizon line, so things lower are generally closer to us. In the sky, it's the inverse. So I'll use another example here in a little bit. But if you know your vanishing lines, they're the opposite in the sky, right? Because the sky is a big dome and big clouds will generally be up higher, small clouds generally lower. But the weird thing about the sky and the tricky thing is it doesn't follow that rule, right? Because clouds can be floating kind of at any level. And also when it comes to diminishing size, look at what Michael's done. He's put the great big cloud in the very far back, right? And a lot of the smaller clouds are actually closest to us. And we've all seen that. That can totally happen because clouds aren't all of a uniform size. So that's one of those kind of guidelines, like diminishing size as you go towards the horizon line, that can be shattered when it comes to clouds. But let's look at some more examples. Here we go, another Michael Stack painting. And this one follows that diminishing size, doesn't it? See the smallest shape, medium shape, and then a big shape. And doesn't that feel more naturalistic to us as we go down towards the horizon line? Quick thumbs up if that makes kind of sense what I'm saying there. It's kind of the inverse again of the ground plane. Let's go over to, you guys see Photoshop now? Do you guys see Photoshop or Facebook now?
Facebook is still in front.
Well, a
Okay,
little
so I got to do a stop share and share screen again. I didn't know if I could just go over without. I'm going to open that painting by Michael Stack. And where is it? Here it is. Pull it into here. So what I'm talking about is on the ground, you will generally have receding lines, right? Kind of, you guys know about the train tracks, right? Going back into space.
Mhm.
yeah. Okay.
Right? And you can see how he's kind of lining up some plants to do that, and how he's got receding size going back. And so he's feeding that, these trees, we know they're not, the same size as these bushes, they're further away. And we know these trees are probably the same size in real life as these paintings, are just further away, so they appear much smaller. Well, in the sky, it does the same thing, just in inverse. For some of you, that's going to be new kind of knowledge, even though you knew it instinctually, you hadn't really thought of it, right? Here's something also interesting, is these trees way back here, we are looking at them very much just the side of them, right? And as things come closer to us, we're no longer seeing just the side, we're now seeing the tops of those things, right? The grasses and some of the bushes, we're seeing more of the tops, whereas things go further and further back, we just see the sides. That same thing happens with clouds. As clouds come closer to us, we see more of the underside of them. Like this one is this is showing us all of its underside here. Right? Whereas when they get to the very far back, it's all just a side view. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Yep.
So clouds and sky can definitely be kind of tricky that way. Pretty interesting, but you also really clearly see the diminishing size. So if you imagine all these clouds, if they were side by side, could maybe be approximately the same size, but as they go back, they get smaller. What's another tool that he's using here to convey the idea of space with these clouds?
The horizon line.
The horizon line, definitely, as things go back towards the horizon line. Yeah.
Value.
Value. Yeah. Darker as we get further away from the sun, from the source of the light, right? The darkest cloud is up here, isn't it? Way up here is the darkest. And then to this one, and then to this one. So yeah, the dark values. Great. So, but that in the sky is a little bit different than in landscapes too, because it very much depends on where the light source is. Okay, so that's a great question. I'm not sure if that was Donald that said value, but yeah, good catch. The other thing that I wanted you guys to see was overlapping shapes. See this big cloud here overlaps this cloud, right? You can see the top of it going up underneath, and this cloud overlaps this cloud. You can see the top of it going up underneath. So we're looking for, when we're painting skies, we're looking for some clues that we can use, some tools that we can use to help us paint better clouds, and to help with the idea of perspective, if it's, you know, important in our painting. And also, you know, where the light source is. That makes sense, everybody? Great. All right, back to Facebook, and let's check out a couple more here. This is Kim Casabier. I just love this. I have to imagine that this is a plein air painting. Kim does gorgeous work, really great painter. And I just love her combination of detail and fresh brushwork, movement. I mean, you really can feel that this is very much, you know, that this rain is just sweeping across these hills. I love that part of the landscape is in light, part of it's in the cast shadow of the clouds, you know, sharing a similar light source, and everything else. So I just kind of wanted to show that this is kind of a combination, a nice quick gestural painting, nice movement. All right, this is a Renato, I don't know how to say his last name, Muccillo, Muccillo. Anybody want to guess? Anybody good at with Italian? But this guy, Canadian painter and fantastic, just an amazing painter. Sells out his shows all the time. I think, in fact, even buy a painting of his, sometimes you have to enter a drawing just to be able to buy them. So, you know, things to aspire towards at some point in our careers. But yeah, look at the condensed values within these clouds, meaning the lights and darks are all really close, but you can still really feel the different patterning and the different shapes and movement within these clouds. Saving his dark for the sky, which is really interesting. I believe he shot this photo reference with a strong filter that made the sky really dark, which, you know, is kind of an interesting idea, but it sure works. And then he really even shows you where his light source is. It's tucked right behind this cloud that he's kind of blasting out with light. That would be an interesting thing because it's so close to the edge of the painting that it risks taking your attention off the scene, right? It's so close to the edge, but he's made everything else so interesting, so beautiful. Oops. Wanted to zoom in and it's not letting me zoom back in. Huh. Don't know what I did to make it small. Sorry, guys. I've made everything small. That might be the end of our examples. All right, how did that work? Why did that happen? Weird. Okay, well, maybe this is a good opportunity for a little break. We've been going at it for a full hour already without getting up and moving our legs. Let me know, how are you guys doing? Are you guys okay to look at a couple more artists' paintings before I start doing a demo, or are you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break here, and then between, and let me see if I can figure out why my screen is so tiny. And then, so go grab some tea or whatever you need, stretch your legs, important to get up. And then we'll take another break between as I get up to the easel so I can kind of set up a little bit. And so we'll have a couple more breaks. So anyways, go ahead, take 5 minutes break, and I will see you guys at 10:15.
Good. Okay.
Catherine Larpenter can't get in.
Can't get in from her house.
I told her she should set up Zoom last night and she didn't. So she can't get in. Nancy can't help her and I can't help her.
I
So
wonder what part of the road that she'd ordinarily drive is difficulty.
Not the road, into the computer. She can't get on the meeting.
Oh, she can't.
No.
Oh. Okay.
When Jim can't help her, so. You can eat that other piece of pie. It's great for breakfast.
The pie is?